Welcome to Looking at Legal Stuff. Today we have a termination hearing for a personal protection order in a case with a man who's trying to have the PPO that has been in place against him for the last 3 months terminated because the PPO is causing both of them to be evicted. He says that not only does she not have any evidence to back up her claims that he's a danger to her, but that she's also shown that she's not afraid of him because she kept contacting him after the incident that she complained to the police about. He says that she sent him gifts and love notes, including ice cream and a box of condoms. What does the woman have to say about his claims? Let's find out.
We are here in the case of Christina Munoz versus Jacob Bennett, case number 25-03423PH. This hearing is being recorded on Zoom and live streamed on YouTube.
And this matter comes before the court today on Mr. Bennett's objection and request for termination of a PPO that I granted in favor of Ms. Munoz. It appears that I granted that protection order back on April 15th of this year. So as an initial matter, I do see both parties are here in person. I would ask you both to state and spell your name for the record. We can begin with Ms. Munoz.
Sure. First name is Christina, Christina. Last name is spelled Munoz.
Thank you. And Mr. Bennett.
Jacob Bennett, JACOBBENNETT.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Munoz, this is your PPO, so you do bear the burden of proof. And what I am going to do is I will swear you in and take your testimony. I do have to give Mr. Bennett the opportunity to ask any questions by way of cross-examination he may wish of you, and then I can make my ruling on whether or not the PPO will remain in place. So, Ms. Munoz, if you would please unmute and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony today will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Munoz, I do have your PPO in front of me here, and I believe it was me that signed this. Yeah, I did grant it, and it is what we call a PH order based on a fear of a. And I do have your statement in front of me here. Without just reading the statement to me, why don't you state the basis that I granted the order for at this time?
Today is repeated behavior that is unpredictable and changes by day, by week, by hour. That puts my life in danger and has created a hostile environment for my education and my employment. And there's no freedom, and it interferes with my liberty to do my job and to go to school and to participate in my life. There's a threat to either hurt me or me if I refuse to submit to his wishes, whatever it may be. And there's no regard for another person's emotions, rights that I've seen throughout the last several months.
Okay, and you are live in the same apartment complex?
Yes.
Okay, and you know, the most concerning incident as I'm looking at this is one that was the basis of the police report. It looks like you say on January 9th of 25, he grabbed your child when you told him no several times, and then subsequently on January 11th coerced you after you said no 20 times in 3 hours. Those statements are true?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And then subsequent to that, there were a series of interactions that you had with him that made you fearful of Mr. Bennett? You had some contact with Mr. Bennett?
Yes, there is repeated text messaging requesting a date and romantic intentions, and I kept saying no. And he would become angry and almost violently angry, going from calm to angry in a matter of seconds sometimes, that after I've denied the request and then further pushing towards what he wanted. I have no my no and my boundaries are constantly violated. And this is wherever I am. And I've run into some other neighbors in the community, and he soon appears thereafter. It's very predictable. There's a correlation there. Can't say it's causation, but I do know that these incidents are connected with some alliance with the management of the apartment company, in terms of making it harder for me to have any freedom or any kind of sense of safety. Without hearing my side of the story, it's always very one-sided, and several people have been turned against me, and making it seem like I'm the problem as opposed to the one who's been repeatedly in the situations where I've had to hide and try to find alternative housing and try to hide my dog to keep her safe. Simply because I say no, it's not respected.
Now your PPO references a police report of this year.
Yes.
Is that still under investigation? Do you know?
No, it is not under investigation. There's been additional comments have been added to it after April 1st, though.
Okay, which one is?
Okay, and in other words, I mean, now of course I'm gonna ask Mr. Bennett this as well, but I mean, he hasn't been arrested or charged that you're aware with.
No, was not charged. No,
And it
not in a
looked to me-
criminal court. Go ahead.
Okay, no, yeah, I get it. And I looked to me like was there a dating relationship at some previous point or never?
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, Mr. Bennett, I'll give you an opportunity to ask Ms. Munoz questions at this time.
Yeah, what's your proof? We live in an area
All of the
with,
text messages from January 8th through 9th, and eventually all the text messages from January 9th through this all the way ideally until the 20th, and when you burned the apartment down.
gotcha, but where's your proof? We live in a very well documented and camera recorded environment. You don't have
The proof is
anything?
in the message, the repeated questioning, the
Oh,
constant
I know, I
gaslighting,
submitted my text too.
and the corresponding inconsistencies in personalities and behavior that misalign with the text messages or align with the text messages precisely. There's a different personality every 3 hours or even within the same day. You can go from acting like Martha Stewart to your father to a frat boy within 3 hours, which is terrifying. Different values, different insight, different ways of speaking, different jargon, and zero right for the moral boundaries and ethics of other people, disregard for other people's lives, no empathy, glib, superficial charm, and just a complete violation of other people's rights.
Okay, so all the friends and community I've built here at this apartment building, they're being suckered, right?
No, they're being fooled by your different personalities, antisocial personality disorder, sociopathy. The first day we were in an apartment group meeting, you told everybody but at Oedipus Complex, and couldn't understand why we were all uncomfortable with Oedipus Complex. Yeah, because that's not normal for somebody to laugh at that or think it's casual conversation. That's disturbing. That's very
Okay.
All right, so no further questions, Mr. Bennett?
Nope.
Mr. Bennett, are you aware of any charges that stemmed out of the allegations that she makes here that you touched her when you told him no?
Yep, I'm aware. I was called by Detective Joe Parsley. I went down, I was questioned, they took my phone, they submitted all the text for evidence, and then I believe that was towards the end of the week when they submitted my phone texts. And then by Monday, I was informed that the prosecutor was not following up on this.
Okay, so as far as you know, that investigation has closed without any charges.
Correct.
Okay, all right. And you deny that unconsented touching occurred on January 9th and the 11th?
Correct.
Okay. All right, well, the issue here is a PPO, based upon, and I guess the next question to you, Mr. Bennett, are you crossing paths with Ms. Munoz on the regular basis because of you living in the same, I mean, do you have to see each other?
Fortunately, we have not crossed paths in some time.
Okay, all right, so in other words, you can stay away from each other, if you choose to avoid.
Correct, but the leasing office will not let us live here with a standing PPO.
Will not allow the both of you there?
Correct.
So have they filed a motion? I mean, the PPO's been in effect since
Yeah, yeah.
April. They've
They
tried
sent out eviction. They sent out eviction notices. Yes.
to you.
Yes.
Okay, and that's because did they tell you the basis for the eviction?
Yeah. So there's a standing PPO, and they're also building. There's also been a number of complaints against Ms. Munoz. And they are handling it with their legal team, but basically how it was put to me is their legal team wasn't picking sides, so we both got the same eviction letter.
Is that correct, Ms. Munoz? You've also gotten an eviction notice in the matter?
I did, but because against the Violence Against Women Act, the judge says I am free to break my lease without financial penalty. That's what the lawyer, their lawyer, said I can break it without financial penalty, but I also have an ESA, an emotional support animal, so that would be
Yeah,
that
another
would,
consideration there, but
right.
I mean, in effect, the apartment notice was kind of neutral. They said, well, there's a PPO in place and we're gonna boot you both out.
Correct.
I don't know what other people have received because I can't be told that
Sure.
by a
No, I
professional.
understand.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I have heard the testimony of the parties today, and of course, the burden of proof for a PPO is much lower. In a criminal case, in order for that criminal case, for example, for the to move forward, there would have to be either substantial evidence or to convict at trial, evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that the assault occurred. For a civil case, however, it is just a standard of more evidence than not that the contact occurred. And I've heard from both parties at this time, very intentionally, I didn't want to dig into the details of the alleged contact in January. And that's very simple. The reason for that, Mr. Bennett, is I don't want anything, at worst, a PPO is okay, you got evicted from your apartment and you can't be around a person for the duration of the PPO. At worst, on a criminal sexual conduct case, you go to the Michigan Department of Corrections for a number of years. There's no comparison. In other words, I wouldn't want to get a single word of testimony in a hearing like this that would potentially hurt you down the road, because frankly, the statute of limitation on that sort of case is a number of years or life in some cases. So I certainly don't want to put either party into place. Thus, I only have limited information to go with here, and I can tell from reading this that there has been friction in this contact and relationship between the two of you. Seems to be exacerbated maybe by the relationships in the apartment, but and I do have to view it also from the viewpoint of the petitioner. That is, would a reasonable person in Miss Munoz shoes have fear that might occur in the future, based upon her allegation that unconsented contact occurred in the past. And I can find by a preponderance of the evidence here that her fear is reasonable enough to support this PPO. Thus, I am going to deny the motion to terminate the PPO and leave this PPO in place. I do note that by its own terms, the PPO is in place until October 14th of this year. At which time, if there isn't any further contact, it'll just normally expire. If there are additional instances of contact, Ms. Munoz can cite those and ask for an extension of the PPO, and I'll make a decision, and you can also object to it at that time, Mr. Bennett. But at this time, I'm going to find by a preponderance of evidence that there is enough for it to remain in place, but that's just like I say, a preponderance is just a little bit more, than not evidence there, and it also has to be, from the perspective of a reasonable person, which.
Your Honor.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Bennett.
So the text I submitted clearly showing that she's the harassing party. Don't mean anything like I'm gonna lose my home based on a few words she said when she was angry.
You actually didn't look through the text. They look like they all predated the issuance of the PPO.
Correct.
Okay, well, and which one, why don't you point me to one of the texts that you think I ought to look at? I guess I can look at a little
Well,
more.
they only let me submit 10 pages.
Yeah,
And it is 10 pages worth of repeated attempts from her side to try to get in contact with me well after the dates of said event, and me confirming that I do not want contact, do not talk to me until I finally and ultimately blocked her.
okay. Now, at the end of this, I did note that there was it looked like, and I have to be honest here, I didn't read all 10 pages of just because my time's constrained, and it's in very small print, which is harder for me to read. However, I did note that there was one at the end here where she sent a message that said, "I never want to see your face again. Please stay far away from me. And those I love." That looks like she broke contact as at least in March, but you're saying between then and March, there was this back and forth that doesn't indicate someone who's in fear of assault. Is that?
She also would leave gifts at my door, and I know it was her because she signed them, as well as a love letter note also signed. And there was a tub of ice cream I've since thrown out with a sticky note, also from her, confirmed by leasing office footage after she lied when I said, please do not leave things at my door anymore. She lied about leaving the ice cream, and I confirmed with the leasing office that it was in fact her. And I submitted a formal complaint to the leasing office.
Your Honor, I object. That's a lie. That was before. And some of those objects were left by other apartment staff, and the leasing office specifically is in alliance with some of those men in the building. I mean, he's denying that any of the things that have happened on January 9th or 11th didn't happen, but you can prove it. You can look at it through the text messages that he, in fact, did coerce me into sexual contact. On the 9th, he repeatedly grabbed me after I told him no. And he's even, there's other apartment men that have told, as I've written into the explanation that, like,
Well, I
including
can't
Mr.
take
Bolduc.
word from anyone else because that would be hearsay here.
Yeah.
Where in these messages does he indicate that there's the unwanted touching occurred?
Well, that happened in person.
He didn't submit anything, Your Honor.
No, he changes
Okay.
his story. I've ran into him at least 3 times since this PPO, and third parties have basically coordinated his appearance shortly after I run into them, April until May. I've moved into another apartment because of my fear of safety.
You moved to another apartment in the same complex?
Yes, within the last week. I don't live there anymore because we're not safe. My dog and I are not safe.
The events of January 9th had you so scared to pull out a PPO, but you're texting me well through
Your
March.
coercion.
Okay, well,
The stress response is fawning.
what I haven't done at this point is I admittedly haven't read through the entirety of these text messages. I do have a minute here. I'm going to sign off for just a second, go through the text messages. I'll let you both wait. And then I will come back. Let me read the text messages. And if I have any questions, I will come back at you. So just let me mute myself for a second here and read these. Okay, I've had the chance to review the text messages at this point. I do have some additional
Judge,
questions.
let me
Okay,
get
let's
us
go
back on the record.
Yeah.
We are back on the record in Munoz versus Bennett, case number 25-03423PH.
All right, and Ms. Munoz, I did have a chance to review the text messages that Mr. Bennett attached. Did you have a copy of those as well?
Yes, and I can show those, as well as all the other behaviors that he's participated in outside of that are on camera, that are on video.
Okay, what are those other behaviors that you're talking about?
It's showing that he's turning the management and the community against me. He specifically told certain neighbors that lies about me to say that I'm the problem. As you can see, he doesn't take no for an answer and will try to distract you with other evidence that is twisted and manipulated to get his way. He doesn't want to hear no regards to anything that he wants. So he will force his way into violating boundaries and pushing people to say yes when they mean no. He was befriending Mr. Bullweg, who I went on a date with, and he's destroyed that relationship effectively, along with a superficial smile, because that's not an appropriate emotion for the situation, which shows you the lack of empathy and disregard for other people's emotions and lack of compassion. And there's this constant flip in personality that is impulsive and deceitful. And my background is psychiatry. I can see it within every 3 hours to 3 days. There's a different personality. It goes consistent with the drug and alcohol use, that which he's at risk because he's burned our apartment down once, and he's at risk again if he was drinking at that event and could burn our apartment down another time. And just a reckless disregard for the rights of others, because what he wants is what he's gonna force his way into getting what he wants, whether it's with another person or forcing someone to believe something they don't want to believe.
I see, but I mean, I guess my thinking is though is, after looking at these messages, my concern isn't with anyone else. It's that he can't coerce or force you to do things that you don't want to do. Because after all, personal protective orders are personal. I mean, it only impacts his contact directly with you. And I mean, it sounds like, I mean, and after I read through these text messages that say it started like what I'm going to describe as a friendly relationship and then deteriorated, that I mean, you've learned your lesson. You're not going to have anything to do with him going forward.
Right. Yeah. And right now there's still third parties posting social media messages that isn't checked off in the PPO regarding Mr. Bennett that are turning other people away from me. So there's a third party. He's using third parties to post social media in a way that would make me feel terrified. I
What
can't
is
You
study
he?
submit
there.
that to court?
Yeah,
What's
I
that?
mean, well, yeah.
Where are you going with this?
Well, I can't take it as hearsay evidence. I guess I need to know what he's posting that makes you fearful or feel harassed.
These are
And
neighbors
then,
that are posting regarding his relationship with Mr. Bullweg and other neighbors. This is things that other people have posted within that friend group that I had left. We were part of the same group chat. I left the group, left all of them, and now they're posting things about him and me and other people there that which just shows you to it just
well, I
shows you
guess
that
that,
that's how he's violating
if I
it.
can just pause you, but is he posting things like I'm going to get back together with her whether she wants to or not, or is it stuff that's just more?
It was regarding his intrusion into my relationship with Mr. Bullweg, and they're arguing whether or not Mr. Bullweg and Mr. Bennett are friends.
Yeah, and I
It's
really can't find that as a basis
yeah,
for a PPO
but
here. I
he's
mean, I get it.
repeatedly showed up in the elevator when um I've I run into the group, so I've avoided the group so I don't run into him in the elevator outside with his dog. I have to basically survey the environment to make sure that he's not around and avoid all possible exits and entrances that he could enter. Um, these are not his community members. This is his narcissistic supply. I mean, he
Yeah,
just takes
no,
advantage of people.
yeah, I get it here. Well, and I mean, doubling down on my concern here is, it's never my intention. I don't have any problem with issuing a protective order to, um, keep people apart from each other. I think that's a good thing. They're called peace bonds, when they originally were invented, the idea being to keep people from taking matters into their own hands and becoming violent, and fighting, as opposed to, just getting an order in court and saying, hey, we're going to keep our distance for X period of time. My particular issue with this one is it is based on a fear of, and though I, don't place any doubt that there was contact between the two of you, it's also very clear to me that there are two different stories here. That in Mr. Bowen's mind, it was a consensual meeting, and in your mind, you were coerced or unconsenting participated in it. And you know, that's of course, you know, in any case involving two individuals who are the only two to be witnesses to those such things. That is, however, in this case, I do have the you know, back and forth in these text messages that indicates that at least during that time there was a friendly or you know, somewhat flirtatious conversation going on between the two of you, and that, you know, the evidence shows that you know, that went south at the end. You know, the relationship deteriorated and ended very clearly with Ms. Munoz saying no more contact. So what I am going to do at this time, and it is somewhat unique because the order does, in this case, you know, it anticipates not only not that you should have contact with each other, because I don't think you should, but this one says no. Well, I don't think, because I think Ms. Munoz, you have, you know, as you've identified on the record today, identified, you know, to Mr. Bennett that he is not a person that you want to pursue, you know, a romantic or a physical relationship with any further. And it appears that he says the same. And you know, don't see that these actions, though they are irritating, arise to a legitimate threat of. So I'm going to terminate this PPO based on the threat of. I just simply don't think that is there currently, you know, particularly now, you know, essentially 6 months after events at issue, and um, going forward. I do think it's in your both interest to watch out for each other. I hope that by pulling the protective order out, perhaps it gives you both a chance to stay in the apartments. It sounds like you both have separate beefs with the apartments, but maybe you can stay. Let's do that. However, you know, if there is threatening or harassing conduct, which is more what you're talking about, Ms. Munoz, going forward, you know, the PPO office is open, and if conduct, you know, would legitimately make you feel threatened or harassed, you know, either of you could file in order to, you know, formalize that and make it so that you would have to stay away from each other. Now, you know, I don't know, every apartment has different policies. Some, I know I've modified some in the past to say, well, you know, in particular in the case of neighbors, well, there's no way you can stay out of sight of each other, but you can keep within 300 feet of each other. And coworkers, also, I've granted these, and I say, you know, kind of respect the other person's bubble, like that's around them. Don't unnecessarily come into contact with them. I think you're both going to be best off with that going forward, both in the chance of you remaining at Studio Park, and then, you know, just for the peace in general. With regard to social media, my usual advice to people is, you know, there's so much untruth, mistruth out there, and it's also so hard to know if a message actually, you know, originated with a person or not, because anyone can post anything and under any name, basically. You know, sometimes it's best just to take a break from social media, you know, to let, you know, the situation kind of reach a level, and then, you know, re-engage in a way that builds things up rather than seeks to tear things down. Because, you know, social media, and I confront it in all sorts of cases, is notoriously both unreliable and unfortunately almost unerasable. You know, when someone puts something out there, it's out there forever. So, you know, just some good consciousness about you know, thinking before you post stuff, particularly what can be viewed by the public. You know, I have to worry about that, of course, in my position as well, you know, the statements I make. So, but, you know, what does impress me from both of your conduct at the hearing today is you're both people who can, you know, state and resolve your things civilly. I don't think this is a situation where the two of you are going to get into a fist fight in the hallway or something like that. But if that situation does, you know, present itself as threatening down the road, you know, we can just formalize it with another PPO. But I appreciate you both coming in and testifying civilly today, and appreciate, you know, again, the evidence presented. And like I say, let's go forward with no PPO. I'll enter an order terminating it at this time. We'll see how that shakes out. And like I say, the PPO office is open if either of you feel that there is a need for one down the road. So
Thank you, Your Honor.
thank you.